Elizabeth Tudor was 25 years old when she ascended the English throne in November 1558, inheriting a kingdom fractured by religious conflict, economic instability, and diplomatic isolation. As a young, unmarried woman ruling a patriarchal society, her very existence as queen challenged long-held assumptions about power and gender. Almost immediately, one question dominated political life in England and beyond: whom would Elizabeth marry? At the center of this question stood Robert Dudley, a man whose presence would shape both her personal life and her reign for decades. Robert Dudley and Elizabeth had known each other since childhood. They were raised together at the Tudor court and shared formative experiences, including imprisonment in the Tower of London during the reign of Queen Mary I. Dudley's father, the Duke of Northumberland, had attempted to place his daughter-in-law, Lady Jane Grey, on the throne, a failed coup that ended in execution and disgrace. Elizabeth and Robert's shared trauma forged a bond of trust that few others could claim. When Elizabeth became queen, Dudley was quickly elevated. He was appointed Master of the Horse, a position that gave him constant access to the monarch and made him a visible presence at court. Observers noted the Queen's affection for him almost immediately. She relied on his counsel, laughed openly in his company, and showed a familiarity that unsettled foreign ambassadors and English nobles alike. Rumors began to circulate that Dudley was not merely a favorite, but something more. Elizabeth's affection for Dudley posed a political problem. He was already married to Amy Robsart, a quiet woman who lived largely away from court. The existence of Dudley's wife made any notion of marriage between him and the Queen scandalous. Yet Elizabeth appeared reluctant to distance herself. At a time when European powers pressed her to marry foreign princes for alliances, her attachment to an English nobleman seemed both impractical and dangerous. Foreign diplomats watched closely. Spanish and French ambassadors reported Elizabeth's behavior with fascination and alarm, noting that she appeared emotionally dependent on Dudley. Some believed marriage was inevitable, while others warned their courts that such a union would provoke rebellion. England's nobility, already wary of Dudley's family history, feared that his influence would undermine stability and concentrate power dangerously close to the throne. The situation took a dramatic turn in September 1560 when Amy Robsart was found dead at the bottom of a staircase in her home at Cumnor Place. The circumstances were immediately suspicious. Though a coroner's inquest ruled the death an accident, rumors of murder spread rapidly. Dudley's name was whispered in connection with the tragedy, and Elizabeth herself was drawn into the scandal by association. The timing of Amy Robsart's death was catastrophic. Dudley was widely suspected of arranging her murder to clear the path to marriage with the Queen. Whether or not the accusations had any basis in fact, the damage was done. Elizabeth understood the political reality instantly. Any attempt to marry Dudley under such a cloud would destroy her credibility and threaten her throne. Elizabeth responded by distancing herself publicly. Dudley was sent away from court, and marriage was no longer openly discussed. Yet the emotional bond between them did not break. Over the years, Dudley returned to favor, granted titles, lands, and responsibilities. In 1564, Elizabeth created him Earl of Leicester, one of the highest honors she could bestow. This act alone demonstrated that despite public caution, her trust in him remained intact. Throughout the 1560s and 1570s, Dudley remained Elizabeth's closest companion. They corresponded frequently, and their letters reveal a relationship marked by affection, teasing, and emotional intensity. Elizabeth referred to him as "my eyes" and "my sweet Robin," language unusually intimate for a queen whose words were typically measured and political. Dudley, in turn, showed unwavering loyalty, defending her interests both at home and abroad. Despite her attachment, Elizabeth consistently refused to marry Dudley. The reasons were complex. Politically, marrying an English nobleman risked alienating powerful factions. Personally, Elizabeth had learned from her mother in Boleyn's fate and her father Henry VIII's volatile marriages that wedlock could destroy a queen's authority. Dudley's tarnished reputation made the risk even greater. Elizabeth also understood the power of ambiguity. By remaining unmarried, she kept foreign powers hopeful and her own nobles uncertain, strengthening her position. Dudley's presence served a dual purpose. He fulfilled emotional needs while also deflecting pressure by keeping the possibility of marriage alive without committing to it. Dudley, however, did not share Elizabeth's ability to balance sentiment and strategy indefinitely. In 1578, he secretly married Lettice Knowles, a widow and cousin of Elizabeth. The marriage was an act of desperation as much as desire, reflecting Dudley's recognition that the Queen would never marry him. When Elizabeth discovered the truth, her reaction was furious. She banished Lettice from court and treated Dudley with cold restraint, though she never fully cast him aside. The marriage marked a turning point. While Dudley retained favor and continued to serve the crown, the emotional closeness between him and Elizabeth was permanently altered. The illusion of possibility, the unspoken idea that they might one day be together, was shattered. Yet Elizabeth's response was revealing. Her anger stemmed not only from betrayal, but from the collapse of a relationship that had defined much of her emotional life. As Elizabeth aged, Dudley remained by her side during moments of crisis. He commanded forces during the Netherlands campaign, advised her during the threat of Spanish invasion, and remained a central figure in her inner circle. Though political disagreements arose, Elizabeth trusted him as she trusted no other man. In 1588, as England faced the Spanish Armada, Dudley played a role in national defense, though illness limited his involvement. That same year, he died suddenly. Elizabeth was devastated. She retreated into seclusion and reportedly kept Dudley's final letter by her bedside for the rest of her life. His death marked the end of an era, both personally and politically. Elizabeth never married. She became known as the Virgin Queen, crafting an image of chastity and devotion to her kingdom that became central to her identity. Yet the myth of emotional detachment is misleading. Her relationship with Dudley reveals a woman deeply capable of love, but acutely aware of its costs. Their bond defied easy classification. It was not a secret marriage, nor merely courtly affection. It was a sustained emotional partnership constrained by political reality. Elizabeth allowed Dudley closer than anyone else, but never at the expense of her sovereignty. The forbidden nature of their love shaped Elizabeth's reign. It taught her restraint, reinforced her independence, and hardened her resolve to rule alone. Dudley, for his part, remained loyal even when denied the one thing he desired most. Their relationship was built on shared history, mutual reliance, and unfulfilled possibility. Historians continue to debate whether Elizabeth and Dudley were ever lovers in the physical sense. The evidence is inconclusive, and perhaps intentionally so. Elizabeth understood the value of mystery, and Dudley understood the limits of proximity to power. What remains clear is that their relationship was emotionally profound and politically significant. The story of Elizabeth I and Robert Dudley is not a conventional romance. It is a study in restraint, sacrifice, and power. Their love never altered the course of succession, but it shaped the character of a queen and the tone of a reign. In the end, Elizabeth chose the crown over the man she loved most. Dudley accepted a life lived in her shadow, never fully rewarded, never fully dismissed. Their story endures because it reveals the human cost of leadership and the loneliness that often accompanies power. Elizabeth died in 1603, unmarried and childless, ending the Tudor dynasty. Dudley was long gone by then, but his presence lingered in memory. Together, they embodied a tension that defined an age, the struggle between personal desire and public duty. Their forbidden love did not break England, but it shaped a queen who understood that ruling meant, above all, knowing when not to choose the heart.